Started. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar on making the most of a career fair. And for those of you who are joining us today, we're really prepping you for the NPCA Virtual Career Fair scheduled for January 28th of this year. So just a week away, and really, getting you prepared how to do that the best, how to maneuver in a virtual career fair in particular, but career fairs in general, to really help you know what they are, how they work, what they are and aren't, and how you can make the most of those in your own job search and in your networking to land that next great job for yourself. So I'm very excited to be joined here by Rhonda Anstead, a colleague of mine. And Rhonda, I'd love for you to briefly introduce yourself really quickly before we get started as well. I did fail to mention I'm an RPCV as well, having served in Ecuador from 94 through 97. And I currently work as the Career Services Specialist at NPCA. And I have the honor of working with the consultant, Rhonda Anstead, and she can introduce herself right now. Thanks, Rhonda.
Thanks, Jody. It is my pleasure to be here, and I am also an RPCV in South Africa, 2007 to 2009. And as Jody mentioned, I am a career consultant and strategist, and I have my own private practice, Be the Change Career Consulting, and I'm also the creator of my career design studio to help people really identify the work that they love and how they can get that. So as Jody mentioned, we've been working together on many NPCA webinars, and I'm just really excited about this opportunity, this really unique opportunity that you guys will have through NPCA.
Great. Thank you so much, Rhonda. And again, it's so great to have you here. I always love co-facilitating webinars and such with you. We always do a monthly Ask the Career Coach. We do a monthly podcast that's dedicated to taking whatever your career questions are. It's generally the first Wednesday of the month from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join us for that as well if you're interested in more questions and such. And if we don't get to all of the questions here, since we do have so many, hopefully we will. We'll do our best. We'll plow through this and do what we can. So thanks so much for being here. And let's go ahead and just get started. So let's talk first about the virtual career fair, right? And a career fair in general, right? What is it? And what isn't it? Because there's a lot of misperceptions out there. Does anyone want to venture to guess? Maybe in the chat box, you can just put what you see the career fair as being. What is it? If you're willing to do that, we love your participation there, and we'll then discuss some things as well. Great. It is the career fair is next Thursday, the 28th. So it's just under a week. Yes, it's the Thursday, the 28th. Yes, anything. An opportunity to connect with employers directly. Absolutely, Anna. That is right. It's a great opportunity to connect with them directly, right? In a virtual across the computer screen, but in a in-person one, in person with them, right? So you get to actually meet them, meet employers who are looking to recruit candidates. So it's a great opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to give your resume directly to a recruiter. Absolutely, when that's possible as well, right? To share your resume. Sometimes they'll refer you to send it to a certain email address or in some kind of job, portal. Other times in an in-person, they may actually collect it. But these days, oftentimes they're doing the electronic only because it's so much easier for them to share it and less easy to lose it, right? Your one hard copy of your resume is not going to have as good of a chance oftentimes of making it around to other hiring officials and such. So absolutely, those are great. Virtual meet recruiters, opportunity to network. That's a big one. And we're really going to push that networking really with the employers, but also with even your fellow RPCVs who are waiting maybe in a room, and you are both in the chat room, and you hear them talk about their job working in whatever it is, and you're interested in that. You could certainly private message them in that chat room and say, hey, I'd love to connect with you, on LinkedIn and hear more about your experience in that. That's an area that I'm interested in. So I always say take the blinders off. Don't look at it as just the interaction with the employer and you getting your resume or talking to them, connecting with them, but open it up to include the other participants in the room. Everywhere you look is an opportunity for networking, as I always say, right? So you always want to be ready, and we're gonna talk a little more about even your elevator pitch, if you will, and developing that for the career fair and beyond. So, what isn't a career fair? And I didn't see anyone say this, fortunately. Generally, career fairs, job fairs are not where you're going to go in and unemployed and you're going to leave employed with a job with a company. That's just not the reality, right? There are some where they may have interview rooms or some of the fancy platforms that cost thousands and thousands of dollars, that universities might have. They might have, interview rooms so they can have more one-on-one time with you private. But even then, it's rare that they would be hiring you on the spot, right? They're gonna want to check references and do that. So the focus is more on connection. And that's what I like to emphasize for people. So let's talk a little more about the overview of how the virtual career fair is going to work and how it works in general. Right, there are differences, with some of the ones that are in universities. They use Handshake, and so there's that whole platform to connect beforehand and things like this. In our virtual career fair, this is a pretty simplified approach, and we're trying this for the first time, so it's all a work in progress. But we, on our Zoom platform, we have the ability to host 50 up to 50 breakout rooms. And so what we're doing is we've recruited the employers and they're excited to be there, excited to connect with you. They're going to have their own breakout room. There may be some agencies with multiple representatives, maybe different divisions of one employer. For example, EPA is a huge supporter of RPCVs. They have a very RPCV friendly culture. Their RPCV group, workplace affinity group, is really strong. They know and recognize the talents of RPCVs, right? And they really are excited. So there were several different departments that in divisions and regions. We have everything from San Francisco region to Colorado, to I think it's New York City, I forget, but they're all over, right? And so we can't probably have them each in their very own room. So there will be a couple recruiters, in sharing a breakout room, but with the same agency, right? So, what's great about this is you're going to be able to go freely between the employer booths. So, it's not going to be like the typical Zoom where if you want to go into a breakout group, you're either assigned and then you have to come out and ask to be reassigned to another one, which would be a virtual nightmare for a career fair, I can guarantee you. So, fortunately, as they've explained it, you will be able to have that opportunity to go and stay as long as you want. Maybe you go to EPA first and then you want to go to, a nonprofit that's there, and you can go in and out as you wish at your discretion. And then while you're there, the employers will absolutely be kind of dictating how they manage the room, right? I would encourage you to look at it as kind of like a booth, and but everyone is crowded around at the same time, right? So if there's a lot of people in there's going to be a lot of people that will listen to and hear different questions that might be asked, right? But you could certainly ask questions by sending a message only to the recruiter, maybe, if you had, a question that you wanted to ask and didn't want to announce yourself in front of everyone by doing the chat box to everyone. But also remember, sometimes the rooms, it's actually quite long, right? We have the 11 to about 11:30 is we kick off at 11, and I'd encourage you to be there at that time to hear a little more about, the how it's going to work, to have the employers who are there as well, right? And then we'll break them out into their breakout rooms. They'll be, I think, ordered alphabetically, so it should be easier for you to go in between and find the list. And you should be able to click on your breakout rooms icon and just choose between the ones and go. So that'll be super easy for you to do that. But sometimes we have a long time. It's like 11:30 technically it's until 3. From experience in the in-person ones, I would say sometimes the employers kind of wrap up a little earlier if there's not people. So I wouldn't probably plan on coming just at 2 o'clock. I would plan on coming in the start, but looking at the different groups. And if you go into a group and there's not a lot of interaction going on and there's so many people there, maybe go to another group and see if you can find some one-on-one connection, right? The small, the smaller, if there's not anyone else there, they're going to be, thrilled to talk to you, you know, and chat with you a little bit as well. So do that, and visit as many of the employers as you can. I always give this tip to the in-person ones as well because it's a networking opportunity. If nothing else, you can go and you can say, "Thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot to the RPCV, population. I'm excited to have you here." And then, and to meet you, and when you're chatting with them a little bit about the jobs, or maybe it's an employer that you're not really interested in, but you're starting with to kind of, get your feet wet and, build up and get, that kind of perfected your little spiel, right? You could say, well, my area is a little more directed in the finance or this area, but I wanted to definitely stop by and thank you for being here. They're going to appreciate that. And especially the employers that, they might not have the lines, or not lines, but where there's, 50 people or 40 people in there, at once, right? They're going to really have more time for you as well. And you might end up getting networking contacts out of that, right? So that's great. And then we have asked them, we suggested that they share a title like slide with, whatever information they want, but ideally their contact information so that that can be there as people come in and out so that you can follow up with resumes or whatever, to make that easy. When you do go in, big tip for when you go into one where it appears that you are alone, or I guess one out of two. If you're one out of two people there, it means the employer's there and you're there, right? Generally. I would encourage you, if you go in and if you give it a few minutes and there's no interaction at all, no one coming, announce yourself. Just unmute yourself and say, "Hi, I'm Jody Hammer. I'm excited to be here and talk with you. Is there anyone there?" And then they might have, how it is, they might have a lull of a half hour where there's not a lot of people that are coming, or any people. So they're kind of multitasking and they may not see you come on screen, but they certainly should hear you. They're supposed to stay active in their, Zoom platform, so that should work. So great. Um, Great. And if you have difficulties, in maneuvering or whatever, you can always leave and go back to the plenary session and ask us for assistance if there's, something going on. Okay. So, tips for preparing. Let's go through some of these. First and foremost, make sure that your Zoom is up to date. You can go in, when you look at your Zoom, I think it's under your where your picture is and such, and it has your account and it'll check for updates. You can easily do that. I would definitely recommend that you update that, because if you don't have the appropriate level of or version of Zoom, it won't let you self-select and go back and forth, which would completely defeat the purpose of the event. So make sure that you do that beforehand. Wonderful. Research the companies. Rhonda was talking a little bit about this, and reviewing the employers, right, that are registered. You can go to the event tab and under, or the event description, and there will be a tab that says employers registered, I think is how it's titled. When you click on that, it should show you the names of the organizations, and then a little write-up that we asked them to supply a short blurb about their agency and or opportunities in particular they're looking to fill. So that'll really give you some good content on, go through and maybe even print that out, right? And highlight some of the ones that are really your favorite, so that you can then, when you're going around to those different rooms, you can ask about those opportunities. Okay. Check the postings on Career Link. I don't know if Rhonda, I think you may have mentioned that in the very beginning when you were chatting with people offline. We've also asked, if possible, employers to consider posting their opportunities on both the RPCV Career Link, which is the jobs board for Peace Corps, right, for RPCVs, and it's just, you can get to that. Rhonda, I don't know if you might be able to throw that in the chat box, the address of it, but it's just Peace Corps .gov/career link. And that's the pretty big one, right? That has generally hundreds and hundreds of opportunities. And hopefully you can find some of those. You can search by the title and all those kinds of things. You can search by NCE jobs, but just look and see if there are some that are maybe posted there that you can then review, because that's what's important, right? The biggest tip for the preparing is really that, like, getting yourself organized, right? And researching and knowing the organizations that are there, knowing about them, looking up on their LinkedIn page, looking up, how they're organized, structured, what jobs they're offering, all those kinds of things, so that you can come with your targeted list of questions, which makes you look much more prepared and much more competent, right? When you are there and you're talking and say, I noticed in researching for the event, I'm very interested in your organization, and I noticed that you had a job in blah blah blah, whatever it is, and bring that up, right? That's impressive to them instead of just the so what jobs do you have, right? So great, and we're gonna do a role play too in a little bit here. So you're gonna see a little more of the good and bad of that as well, and hopefully be able to distinguish between the two. Let's yeah, avoid asking the kinds of questions that you can find online, because that's just kind of a waste of their time in a sense, right? You want to try to add to what you've already done, right? And then there's also, just FYI, NPCA does have a jobs board as well. And if you just do a Google search on it, or you go in to peacecorpsconnect.org, and you get to their careers page, it will point you, or it will point you to that, or jobs available. It will point you to that as well. And some of them are also posting there. Okay. Taking notes are great, and bringing notes even to an in-person one are fine, right? But definitely, for a virtual, you could have your little cheat sheet next to you, although you do want to really focus on good eye contact as well. But you could have your little cheat sheet behind your camera, so you're looking at it and it kind of looks like you're looking at your camera anyway. That can be helpful. So all of those different little tips. Um, and I don't know, Rhonda, would you like to cover a few of these here, and just some of the more tips for preparing?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And so, first of all, I think that it seems like everyone is really on board, knowing that that this is really a networking opportunity. And so, one of the things that I really recommend is to own the fact that you're interviewing your potential employers as well.
Yep.
So it's helpful not only to do research into what jobs are out there, what the companies are, but also to do kind of like that internal preparation of what do you want. And so that is more than just a job, and more than just a job title, but you also might be thinking in terms of quality of life and location, and what kind of team you're going to be a part of. And this is opportunities to talk to recruiters are like gold for the job seeker, where you can ask questions like, what types of resumes are you more likely to look at? Because that is often an individual or company preference. And so, like Jody and I talk about this, we're both see tons of resumes, and we've got our own opinions about that, and everybody else does. So you want to write your resume so that it's going to be read by the person who's actually looking at it first. And so I think that really helps, that idea of I'm trying to find the best employer for me, who I want to work for. Then that can really help with that that sense of confidence and calm. You're not begging for a job, you are looking for the kind of work and the kind of life you want. And so when you start with yourself and what you want and what you're looking for, then that can really help you figure out, where do you want to spend the majority of your time. And so Jody mentioned that you might want to start with some employers that that you don't care that much about, just to kind of like get your sea legs. But I also know that employers are going to take stock of the people who are the most interested and who are asking the most thoughtful or informed questions. And so when you think about the order that you want to go to, also think through where are the organizations that you're most interested in, and so that you can start developing a relationship. And so the percentage, the ratio of employers to job seekers at this career fair is really in your favor. So it
Hmm.
gives you an opportunity to have real conversations with multiple people that can really give you some good advice of how can you best present yourself so that you get to the interview stage, or even, what's the best way that I can prepare for an interview. Recruiters often don't give that kind of advice any other time because they're just inundated with requests. So it's really a great opportunity to start thinking about, okay, this is an organization I'm super excited about. What is going to help me to stand out as a candidate? And we have developed a pre-career fair kind of worksheet, and we're going to be sending this out to people afterwards, right, Jody?
Yes, actually, it should have gone out last night as an attachment in the updated career logistics for the RPCVs. So if somebody can confirm if you did receive that, just to make sure, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, and so that worksheet is just a way to kind of help you guide your thinking of, what do I want to know? Who's best gonna help me find out that information? Who can I talk to? And then how do you want to structure your time? And so if you can really go with an attitude of how can I build my network and my community with people who really are a part of the decision-making process, then I think that can really help frame your time there. And
Mhm.
so hopefully we'll be able to continue to answer questions as you go forward, but that's really what I encourage you to do, is be strategic, be thoughtful, think about it, and also think about how can you ask these questions in a way that is respectful and shows that you've done your homework.
That's great. Thank you, Rhonda. Really appreciate that input there. So we're going to go into elevator pitch demos. It's more than that. It's a career fair interaction demo. And so we're going to do two role plays here, demos really quickly. This is a variation of what I used to do and used to love to do. It was one of my favorite parts. I guess I'm a stage. I like drama and acting, I guess. So it's a little different in a virtual because you really can't see very much of, of the person other than their head. So we will adapt it now. And just give me one moment here. I'm going to get into my presence, if you will. So
Get in your costume, Jody.
gotta get my, yeah, well, I don't know that they'll really be able to see it as I was thinking about it.
Well,
I will try,
yeah,
yeah, I'll do my.
that is one of the benefits of doing virtual, is that you got to be mostly concerned from the shoulders up. There's are plenty of ways to be unprofessional from the shoulders up too, but at the same time, you do want to make sure, I'm giving you a little sneak peek here, but that you've got something presentable, that you're wearing pants, let's just put it that way. So if you do have to get up, that you're not going to be flashing anybody. And there are, again, going to be some of these adjustments in the virtual environment. And so we'll talk about that a little bit afterwards. So I also just wanted to thank everybody for letting us know that you did and did not receive
Oh,
the worksheet. So we'll make sure that, so this is if you've registered for the career fair. And if you registered a little bit later, you might not have been on the list that got the mailing, but we'll make sure to send it out again. So
Yeah, if you were looking in, you might have gotten, it should be under the one that said updated, and it should have been attached, but, or on the, and there was another one that came right before it. Yes, and I apologize if it didn't. Why don't you just give me an email? Just shoot me an email if you didn't get it, and if there's a lot of people who haven't gotten it, I'll go ahead and send it to everyone. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, let's do this, Rhonda. Let's.
All right.
All right.
So I'm going to be multitasking here.
So to set the scene before we start, so she's the employer at the, employer booth, if you will, and I've entered the room, and it's maybe there's no one else there, and it's my turn or whatever. I'm approaching and saying something. She approaches me, whatever. We're gonna just do a dialogue, and we'll have you tell us what you think went well and what didn't after we do both of them. So okay, so lights, camera. Let's try this here. Okay. Hi.
Oh, hello.
So what jobs do you have available?
Well, we've got, so you can see, I'll put those links in the chat, and so that you can see what our job offerings are.
Okay. And where are they located?
So most of our work is in the Washington DC area.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with relocating. I can pretty much go anywhere for a job. I need a job, and I'm willing to be flexible and go wherever.
Okay, so what are you interested in?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, my priority is getting a job and paying the bills. I was evacuated, and that's been
Hmm.
really hard. And I need to find something. But I mean, I guess something like what I did in Peace Corps. I mean, I'd love to do something with projects and management, that kind of stuff, maybe.
Okay. So what did you do in Peace Corps? What's your background?
Well, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ecuador, and I worked with Catholic Relief Services, doing nutrition work, nutrition outreach in my little village in the Andes Mountains. So
Okay, so you're looking for a nutrition job. You know that this is a technology firm, correct?
yeah, I mean, I like I said, I mean, I'm willing to do kind of whatever. I mean, I need a job. So okay,
Okay.
cut.
Okay.
We're cutting that one because I just can't stand it anymore.
That is the challenge. It's hard to do the bad ones.
Okay. It's actually a lot of fun oftentimes, but more fun in person when you can schlep around with your big backpack and have your
I
like,
know.
where you can really see. But okay, so let's do a retake and of this one. Yeah, let's just do a retake now, and I'm gonna put my camera on again. Okay. Thon jacket. All right. Hello there. I'm Jody Hammer.
Oh, hi, Jody. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for being here. It's really great to have RPCV supportive employers. It really means a lot to us to have folks here. So thank you for coming.
Oh, it is my pleasure. So I'd like to hear a little bit about your background.
Well, in my most recent background is working as a project manager for blank 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 company where I da, 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 and
Mhm.
I'm really looking to parlay that skill and move a little more into the sector with EPA and or the environment arena. And so I'm really excited that you're here today because in preparation, I spent some time looking, at your jobs available and the ones that you shared on CareerLink. And I'm most excited about your program management position in blah, blah, blah. Sorry, just and would love to hear a little more about that as well.
Sure. So this program management job, you would be responsible for a budget of, $5 million. And we're really looking for someone who has both got the project management skills, but also that knows how to interact with different federal agencies.
Sure. Wow, that's great. And actually, that's an area that I'm very well versed in, having
Mm.
done a USAID funded contract in Peace Corps, as well as working with other international organizations. I love um, intercultural. I use my intercultural skills and really love just interacting with diverse populations, and that brings me a lot of fulfillment. So I'd welcome the opportunity to use my skills in that kind of an arena as well.
Well, great. So what I'm going to recommend is that you apply for the job, and if you have any further questions, then don't hesitate. I'll to send me an email, and I'll put my email in the chat
Oh,
box.
great. Wonderful. I was just going to ask for your email. Thank you so much. I will follow up with you then, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jody. It was nice to meet you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, cut. All right, done. So hopefully you noticed a little bit of a difference between the two. Let's debrief the first one first. What did you notice about me, what I said, how I portrayed myself, how I came across? Any thoughts on that? You can dump them in the chat box here. Low energy, you think? Right.
Desperate. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Desperate. Good. I'm glad that came across. I felt like I was hitting you over the head with it, like desperation. I'll do anything. I'll go anywhere. Woe am
Yeah.
I. Poor
Yeah.
body language. Yes, absolutely. Unprepared. Didn't do research, right? It was just it was very much of a like, tell me about what you have. I need a job. I really am flexible because I just will go wherever. I mean, it wasn't the interaction that's going to make you look the best to
Right.
employers, right? And you definitely don't want that. Wasting everyone's time. That's a good Dan, that's a very good comment. You're really wasting their time if you're just coming there and you're completely, unprepared, and that it just doesn't give them a good feeling. Not to mention about RPCVs in general, right? You want them to leave saying, wow, I loved this career fair. I mean, there are sometimes I'm at a career fair and it's kind of painful, like talking to people and whatever. But these RPCVs, they are
Yeah.
excited. They are, like on it. They've done their research. They're great candidates. Like you want them to kind of, walk away with that. So they become more of the EPAs of the world where you have so many that do love RPCVs. So great. Awesome. Let's see. How about the second one? And the second one that I did, and clearly that was not my best. I was not prepared after setting up everything in the computer and all of that. I was definitely not prepared to like give a sample. So I just filled in the blah, blah, blah. And and honestly, it doesn't really matter like in the sample, the important thing is kind of more how you're crafting it and what you're, and I'm looking to parlay these skills in, and how do you, how do you mention that? So what
Right. Yeah. I mean, we did have to do the blah, blah, blahs a little bit, but again, like you want to make that part personal for yourself.
exactly. And that's kind of why we do it as well, because we don't want to waste the time of going through a whole long 5-10 minute discussion on this. We want to be able to get through it in a couple of minutes so you see how it works, and we can go on to a lot of the other content that we have to cover in our limited time as I look at my clock here. So
Yeah. Right.
so the first one didn't really highlight your transferable skills or anything like that. Absolutely not, right? The other one was more professional. The second one, having done the research, referring to having looked at, like that's impressive to somebody. They took the time to actually,
Yeah.
like look up my blah, like that's impressive. So absolutely. And you can certainly take notes. I did not take notes in the demo, but you can certainly in a virtual or even in person, you could be jotting down some notes, few notes, right? Not everything they're saying, but few notes so that you can then it will prompt you when you do your follow-up, because that whole follow-up that we talk about, that's so important. You want to be able to reference and ideally make them remember you. So if there was something fairly unique about you that you shared, somehow, incorporating that into your follow-up with them so that then, oh, that's right. That was that person who was really, whatever. And it could be on anything. I mean, it could be that you have a conversation, as I say, the example I always use is, you might end up talking to a recruiter, somehow get on the concept of a puppy. They just got a puppy. And you are talking about that. And in your follow-up, you could say, it was great to, learn more. How's your puppy doing? What you can reference that and like, oh yeah, that was that person. Right. So that can really help. Are there any other comments in the chat box that I've missed here, Rhonda, in terms?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think some of the things that I wanted to highlight is, her speaking about a specific job rather than asking what jobs they're available. And so that goes to the preparation and just a couple of things from the employer perspective. Like, even though I only see a little bit of you, it makes a big impact. So if your hair's really messy and you look like you just woke up out of bed, then I'm gonna notice that. We do encourage you to have your cameras on, because that is where you make that
Yep,
connection.
exactly.
So yeah, it is important, but you want that connection to reflect well on you. Um,
Exactly.
and just from my perspective, and even though that this is play acting, just the warmth that Jody came in with the second time, and thank you so much for being here, and just um like that put me in a less defensive manner, like, versus what do you have and where is it, and then it's not as warm or as engaging.
Yep.
So, this is where being polite and gracious
Yep.
can affect your interaction. I mean, the recruiters are people too.
Yep, and Rhonda, I wanna add to what you were saying earlier. It's great if you can come with a job that you're specifically interested in, that's awesome. That won't always be the case, and so when it's not the case, you wanna definitely, indicate that, in looking and preparing for this and looking at the jobs that are available, I see that you are recruiting, it seems like you're recruiting extensively in the XYZ area. My skill sector and background is a little more in fill in the blank. What, if any, opportunities does your organization have in that area, or do you have suggestions for other maybe they might even know other organizations, that have that, but really focusing on like what types of opportunities might you have for someone with XYZ skill set? That comes across still that you're very polished, that you've done your research, and it's just not that there wasn't one that you saw that was there. Now, if you find one that's recruiting like NCE and they're really looking mostly for NCE, and you don't have NCE, you certainly can, if you hear them talk about, like they're looking for, these NCE candidate positions and whatever, you could certainly, when it's your chance to, chime in, or ask, or, put your question in the chat box, or just have that one-on-one with them, if you get that opportunity, right? To say, I realize from what you were saying that you are largely looking to fill the NCE candidate positions in whatever areas. I am somebody who's been back longer. I'm more of a mid-career professional with a proven track record in da 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 da. Da. What, if any, opportunities might you or your agency have for someone with that background, with my background? Like, so you could certainly spin it away from, I know you're here for that. Wondering if you might have other tips or advice for, your agency or other agencies that might be appropriate for somebody such as myself, who brings a strong da 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 and a proven commitment to fill in the blank, right? That way it's you're using the event as a networking opportunity, right? It's not just them talking about the one job that they're looking, or the five jobs or five categories of jobs that they're recruiting for. You can use that as more of a on a bigger platform. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Rhonda, were there any other questions that you feel we need to answer on that before moving forward into a
Yeah.
little more? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's some questions, just kind of like how to navigate the conversations. If there's, how long would you wait in a certain room, and how long would you want to stay? And I mean, obviously Jody and I did a very quick interaction. And but what I really recommend for a lot of people, doing informational interviews, and this is really along those lines, is to kind of follow the energy. So to pay attention, how is the recruiter interacting with you, and are they asking questions? Are they giving you more than one word answers to your questions? And so are if you are having a dialogue and you're interested in the organization, then you certainly want to have a list of questions that you can go through. So you might start, tell me about the position
Yep.
and go into, this is an organization I'm really interested in. What kind of advice do you have for someone like me so that I can position myself well when I actually apply for this?
Exactly.
And that is just, you don't get that opportunity very often. But if it's a room with a lot of people and people are talking over each other, come back in 20 minutes. And if you can, the one-on-one conversations are going to be, the most valuable. You're going to be the most memorable. And I also want to give you permission, like if you're feeling awkward and you're like, I don't know what else to ask, then, just thank them for their time. And if you come up with another question later, there's no reason why you can't pop back in and say, I just realized that I wanted to ask you blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And you can, when you're in a room with quite a few people and, some employers may be doing like, having one person at a time kind of, take themselves off mute. Others may be answering the questions that come in the chat box verbally. So it really kind of depends. It's up to them on how they run it. But if you're in a room and there's quite a few people in there, you certainly, and you're getting value from it, you certainly could continue to listen in to what other people are getting. Maybe you don't have the specific questions, but you're getting valuable information from what others are sharing. That's okay too. So, Rhonda, one person asked, and I think it's a good question for us to cover, whether they would be able to record like the breakouts. I don't think that's possible for participants to record. And I don't think they will be recorded. You need to take notes,
Yeah.
is I think what how it is. You get into, I think with
Having-
employers, you get into also their reps, like, oh, we can't have this record. I don't know. I know OPM is very sticky about that. Like they do all those great workshops, but they'll never record them. They don't,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think there's both the logistics and the legality of this. And so, but just to kind of go to that point of why you would want to record. And part of it is just to remember all the information. And I know that note taking isn't perfect, but do obviously do the best you can. And you can feel free to say, do you mind repeating that? I want to make sure that I got the information correctly. And that's something that we're often too anxious to do, to ask someone, I want to, take notes. Can you say that again? But also maybe to see how you come across. And this is one of the beauties of Zoom, is that, it is free and you could do a mock informational interview with somebody and record that and see how you come across. So
yeah.
that's kind of what you're looking for, is to see, do I put my best foot forward? Zoom makes it really easy for you to do in kind of like a mock interview type of way.
And Rhonda, to add to that, there's nothing to stop you from recording, for example, on your phone when you're going you're going to be having a conversation. You could put your phone next to it and probably get get what they're saying, if that helps, just kind of on the side. That might be an alternative as well. Somebody also asked, sorry, a good question, and I want to honor time because we are close to our end time here, but I'm happy to stay on and answer questions afterwards, but I want to make sure that we honor your time, and Rhonda, your busy schedule as well. But someone asked, what might the logistics be of taking the floor to speak directly with an employer when there are many other applicants in the room? So I don't know if I mean, I'm happy to address that. If you want to address it, we can maybe both weigh in on it. Do you want to start?
Sure, sure. And I have worked in, run similar events like this before. And most people, because these are going to be small groups, and most people are, are pretty good at taking their turn. And also the recruiter, is going to be managing the conversation as well and facilitating that. So there's several different ways. And one would be when there's a lull in the conversation, and just say, hey, not hey, but I've got a question. Do you have a moment, or is this a good time? And so I think that that's really important, to just kind of like wait your turn, but then just say, but to let them know. So that would be my advice.
Yep. No, that's great. And yeah, you got it. I mean,
And
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, and one thing that I just want to say about recording, because there are some different laws in different states about consent and all of that.
Allison just brought that up, an attorney here that's on the call, and so maybe X what I
Yeah.
said about recording.
Well, I think the other thing you could say is, I don't want to miss anything. Would you mind? So Allison, if you want to weigh in on this, but if you ask, do you mind if I record this on my phone? And they say, sure, that's fine. Then they've given their consent. So you don't surreptitiously record anybody, because
Right.
we also don't know what state people are necessarily
Yep.
in, and it gets a little dicey with that.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, it's a challenge to navigate the legalities, but also the note-taking properties of that.
Yep. Yep. And I wanted to actually weigh in on another thought that I had on the logistics question for taking the floor to speak directly with an employer. Another thing you might do in, like, when you're in the chat box and you send a message maybe privately to the recruiter to say, I would love to be able to chat with you briefly, whether now or later, unmute and chat briefly. Let me know if you're open to that. And then they could say, yeah, Lisa, and go from there if they're open to it, or, do it later. So, just something else to weigh in. So, all right. So those are okay. The questions. Are there any other final questions before we wrap up and stop the recording? And then I can, of course, stay on if you have additional questions and answer some of those as well. So, if there are any other questions coming in, let's see.
So there was a question about other career fairs, because you mentioned that, this isn't the only one. This is what NPCA is
Yes.
doing, but
Yep. Yes, and we're excited. We partnered with Sid Washington, so Society for International Development, agreed to not partner on the event, but they agreed to allow RPCVs free access to the career fair that they're putting on, the Sid Career Fair. And there's a coupon code for basically return volunteers, and that lets you in free. That's on February 4th. I forget the timing, but the great thing is, if you're interested in international development, that's a great career fair. Like, a lot of the big players are there, so I would definitely check that out. We're going to share in the Global Reentry newsletter, I think, that goes out today, the coupon code for that as well. Or I might even add it on an event on our calendar, and then just when like, have it showing in there or something, because so that you can register for that. And this is actually, if you're more interested in international development, I would still say come to the NPCA one, and practice and go to the feds, go to the all the the employers, and really work up so that you get your comfort level, and then also go to the international development one, and you'll be all the more prepared and ready to excel. So that's what I'd say about that. Great. Thank you, everyone. We have some thanks coming in. Oh, great. Awesome. Dan, the coupon code, the CF 2021 RPCV, all caps. That is the coupon code for the event. Excellent. Wonderful.
and
So, yes,
so I
go
just
ahead.
want to throw in one other thing, that this has been designed so that it's very free flowing. So there aren't going to be lines. The breakout rooms, you go into them whenever you want to. And so again, this isn't a typical career fair. This is done through Zoom. And
Yep.
so you can go in and come out whenever you want to. The other thing that I would say is, make sure that you upgrade Zoom. Because some of the earlier versions don't let you go in and out of the breakout rooms on your own.
You want to be able to go independently to and from.
But worst comes to worst, if you want to go into a room, you have an upgraded Zoom, and technology is not your best friend, come to the main room, we can put you in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to cover. But we will, please sign up for the career fair, and we will continue to send you information and tips to go forward. So yeah.
Great. I want to make one more point on a question Andrew had about whether it's good to like try to pre-submit interviews or I'm sorry, resumes, trying to, will there be any, an opportunity to post a resume ahead of time or during a chat? It will really be more of the latter, what you said, the following up with them. I mean, bring your resume, like, be prepared to share your resume with somebody and have it maybe tailored, but it will generally be, they'll share their email or whatever that you're supposed to dump it into. So it'll be more of that.
Yeah.
But it's great that you have it like ready to go, and then you can update it to maybe tweak it depending on your conversation and what kinds of culture and that kind of stuff that they bring out, so that it really comes across strongly. So
yeah.
okay, great.
Okay. So thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you all. Goodness, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Everyone saying goodbye. Thank you so much. We're happy to be here, happy to help. Let us know if you have other questions, and make it a great event. I look forward to seeing you there and seeing you thrive. All right. Take care, everyone.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye. Go
Bye.
forth and be great.